Hi, I'm Cole Dackton.
And I'm Jacob Gladden.
Welcome to BHS News. August 20th was the first day of school. The high school students met on the bleachers during first hour for an assembly to welcome everyone back and to review school rules. The new librarian, Heath Snyder, was introduced to the 2014-2015 school year. You may remember he was here a few years ago. After the assembly, classes met to elect officials.
The baseball and softball teams have been busy practicing for their first games. The softball team should have had a few games under their belts by now, but last Saturday's tournament at Putnam County was canceled. Both teams should be in action tonight as they host Linn County.
On Thursday night, the Lady Tigers softball team traveled to North Shelby for the first game of the 2014 season. The Lady Raiders got on the scoreboard first with a run in the bottom of the second, but Brashear answered in the top of the third to take a 2-1 lead. North Shelby tied it 2-2 in the bottom of the third. Brashear looked to have a big inning in the fifth, sending 7 batters to the plate, but only coming up with 1 run to take a 3-2 lead. North Shelby bounced back to score 3 in the bottom of the fifth and 1 in the sixth to win 6-3. Abigail Kirby, Sydney Sykes, Allie Garrett, and Caitley Hall had 2 hits each for Brashear, with Skylar Hausman, Mandy Taylor, Abby Hall, and Hannah Reeves also having hits. Sydney Sykes pitched for Brashear, striking out 7. Brashear took the JV game by a score of 11-3. Caitley Hall got the start on the mound.
Hi, I'm Cole Dackton.
And I'm Jacob Gladden.
Welcome to BHS News. Cole Dackman.
And I'm Jacob Bladden.
Welcome to BHS News. On September 10th, the high schoolers and junior high students that received gold, silver, and bronze all loaded up for a short trip to the Keller building to receive complimentary breakfast for their outstanding work they did in the 2013-2014 school year. The Brashear baseball boys played a non-conference game in La Plata Friday night. Although the Tigers managed to escape the rain showers that fell right after the game, they weren't able to escape an 8-run second inning by La Plata. Brashear held La Plata to 2 runs in the first, 2 in the third, and none in the fourth. Brashear got on the board in the fourth as Cole Dackman drew a leadoff walk and stole second. Gabe Thomas then doubled to bring Acton in to score. La Plata won the game by a final score of 12-1. Cole Dackman got to start for Brashear with Jacob Blything pitching in relief.
The Brashear girls played in the Knox County softball tournament Saturday. The first game was with Canton, who quickly put 3 runs on the scoreboard in the first inning. Brashear scored in the fourth with Abby Kirby led off with a single as Sydney Sykes drove her in. The run wouldn't nearly be enough as Canton went on to win the game 11-1. Abby Kirby had 2 hits for Brashear, with Mandy Taylor and Allie Garrett also having hits. Sydney Sykes got the start with Caitley Hall pitching in relief.
Next up for Brashear was Marion County. The Lady Mustangs got their scoring started with 3 runs in the second, adding additional runs in the fourth, fifth, and sixth. Brashear finally got the bats going in the sixth, scoring 4 runs, but it wasn't enough as Marion County won 10-4. Abby Kirby hit 2 hits for Brashear, Hannah Reeves doubled, and Skylar Hausman, Mandy Taylor, Sydney Sykes, and Abby Hall also hit. Caitley Hall pitched for Brashear.
The final game of the day was with Paris, who jumped out to a 2-0 first inning lead. Brashear battled back with 3 runs in the second as Allie Garrett, Abby Hall, Hannah Reeves, Erin Bradshaw, and Caitley Hall had hits. Brashear scored 3 more runs in the fourth on hits by Abby Kirby, Skylar Hausman, Hannah Reeves, and Erin Bradshaw. But it wasn't enough as Paris took the game 8-6. Sydney Sykes got the start for Brashear with Caitley Hall pitching in relief. Hi, I'm Cole Dackman.
And I'm Jacob Blything.
Welcome to
BHS News.
Tuesday was picture day here at Brashear. Students from each grade came in turn to have their pictures taken for the yearbook. Group pictures of baseball and softball teams were also taken.
The Brashear Lady Tigers headed east Thursday night to face the Canton Lady Tigers in a non-conference doubleheader. In the varsity game, Canton jumped out to 3-0 lead in the first inning. After a scoreless second, Canton 8 runs in the third, claimed victory by a score 11-0. Skylar Hausman and Allie Garrett had hits for Brashear. Sydney Sykes got a start with Caitley Hall pitching in relief. The Brashear JV team defeated Canton 4-3.
Atlanta visited Brashear Tuesday for a softball and baseball doubleheader. The Lady Hornets struck for 4 runs in the top of the first and 2 more in the second. Brashear answered with a pair of runs in the first on a Mandy Taylor 2-run home run. Brashear chipped away at Atlanta's lead to tie the game at 7 after 4 innings. The Lady Tigers took a lead 9-8 after 6 innings, but Atlanta scored in the 7th to tie the game. At 9-9 in the 8th, Atlanta pushed across 4 runs, and Brashear was only able to answer with 3 as Atlanta won 13-12. Mandy Taylor had a home run for Brashear, Sydney Sykes had 2 hits, and Skylar Hausman, Allie Garrett, and Erin Bradshaw also had hits. Sydney Sykes pitched for Brashear, giving up 6 hits and striking out 6. The Brashear boys got off to a fast start, scoring 6 in the first and another 6 in the second. Brashear got their lone hit in the first as Chance Hill drew off a leadoff walk. Jacob Blything then hit a 1-out single. Hill scored on a bad throw as Blything stole second. Atlanta then added 2 more runs in the third and fourth in the fourth to win by a final score of 18-1. Chance got the start for Brashear with Cole Acton pitching in relief.
The Brashear softball and baseball teams were nominated Wednesday night. Although the Brashear softball girls were retired in the order in the top of the first, that would be the last close inning of the night. After Novinger got on the scoreboard with a pair of runs in the bottom of the first, Brashear scored 3 in the second, 8 in the third, 3 in the fourth, and 4 in the fifth to claim an 18-3 win. 6 Tigers had multi-hit games, including Skylar Hausman, who homered, Erin Bradshaw, who went 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs, and Harley Mihaljevic, Manny Taylor, Abby Hall, and Alec Garrett also having hits. Sydney Sykes pitched for Brashear, striking out 4. The Tiger baseball team didn't fare as well as Nominger was hitting the ball and Brashear wasn't. Nominger scored 4 in the first, 4 in the second, 5 in the third on the way to a 13-0 victory. Despite playing shorthanded, Brashear had some nice defensive plays. Cold Acton had Brashear's lone hit. Gabe Thomas pitched for Brashear with Jacob Lightning pitching in relief. Wednesday afternoon, a representative of the Jostens Company was at school to meet with the sophomores and the senior class members. Many of our sophomores ordered their class rings through Jostens and senior order announcements and other graduation supplies. The sophomore rings should arrive around Thanksgiving.
A new group met for the first time Wednesday after school. The BHS Book Club meets to promote the love of reading and is sponsored by Tammy Walter.
The Tigers got on the bus Monday for the longest trip in the conference in Meadville. The softball game began with Brashear scoring a run in the top of the first. Brashear added 2 in the second, 2 in the fourth, 3 in the fifth, and single runs in the 6th and 7th inning. Meadville's runs came in 5th as Brashear cruised to a 10-1 win. Mandy Taylor, Hannah Reeves had 3 hits each for Brashear. Skylar Hausman had 2 hits. Harley Mihalovich, Aaron Bradshaw, Abby Kirby, Sydney Sykes, and Abby Hall also had hits. Sydney Sykes picked up the win on the mound, striking out 9.
The Tigers got off to a quick start in the baseball game as they got on the scoreboard with a pair of runs at the top of the first. Brashear then retired Meadville in order in the bottom of the first to hold a 2-0 lead. Meadville picked up a run in the second, 2 more in the fourth to take the lead 3-2. Brashear retook the lead 4-3 in the top of the sixth, only to see Meadville answer with a pair of runs at the bottom of the sixth to retake the lead 5-4. Brashear wasn't done yet, scoring a run to tie the game at 5-5 in the seventh, forcing extra innings. Brashear once again took the lead 7-6, which was run in the top of the 8th, but couldn't close it out, so we needed 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th to allow Meadville to escape with an 8-7 win. Gabe Thomas had 3 hits for Brashear, Cold Acton and Zane Sykes had 2 each, with William Jordan also having a hit. Gabe Thomas got the start for Brashear, going 7 innings and striking out 9. Chance Hill pitched in relief.
The boys took the field first Tuesday as in tradition when teams visit Macon County. Things looked bad for the Tigers in the early going as BMC posted 4 runs in the first, 4 in the second, and another in the third to lead 9-0. At the top of the fourth, things started going Brashear's way as they scored 3 runs to cut the lead 9-3. BMC scored 1 in the bottom of the fourth and 2 in the fifth, but Brashear scored 2 more in the fifth and 5 in the sixth to pull within 2 at 12-10. Neither team scored again, although Brashear was able to bring the tying run to the plate before falling by a final score of 12-10. Chance Hill, Cold Acton, Jacob Lightning, Gabe Thomas, William Jordan, Tyler Watson, and Dalton Hawker all had hits for Brashear. Cold Acton got a start for Brashear with William Jordan pitching in relief.
The Lady Tigers spotted BMC a 1-0 lead in the first, despite Brashear's pitcher Sydney Sykes recording a 4-strikeout inning as one of the strikeout victims reached first on a dropped third strike. Brashear bounced back and took the lead with a pair of runs in the second, then extended the lead to 4-1. With another pair of runs in the third, BMC would then score 4 in the fourth to take a 5-4 lead. Brashear had a big inning with a 5-run fifth inning to reclaim the lead 9-6. BMC closed the gap to 9-8 with a pair of runs in the sixth. Brashear brought some 3 more runs in the seventh, then held off a late rally to win by a final score of 12-10. Sydney Sykes had 3 hits for Brashear. Aaron Bradshaw, Hannah Reeves had 2 hits each, with Abby Kirby, Mandy Taylor, and Abby Hall also having hits. Sydney Sykes went the distance on the mound for Brashear, striking out 9. Jacob Blading.
Welcome to BHS News. Students in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade who scored proficient or advanced on their map testing got to go on a trip to Quincy and visit Scotty Skateland. This took place on Friday, September 26th. There was bumper cars, video games, laser tag, and go-karts and skating that students were able to do depending on what they scored on their map testing.
Fans attending home baseball and softball games at Brashear this fall may have noticed a new addition to the scoreboard. A large sign featuring a team picture honors the 2010 Brashear baseball team who made it to the Final Four and finished second in the state tournament.
Brashear hosted Revere Friday night for a softball and baseball doubleheader. It looked like it would be a high-scoring softball game as Revere scored 4 runs in the top of the first and Brashear answered with 5. That would be all of Revere scoring except for a single run in the 5th. Meanwhile, Brashear scored 1 in the 2nd, 4 in the 3rd, and 5 in the 4th to cruise to a 15-5 win. Harley Mihalovich, Sydney Sykes each had 2 hits for Brashear, with Aaron Bradshaw, Hannah Reeves, Skylar Hausman, and Allie Garrett also having hits. Sydney Sykes picked up the win, with Kaylee Hall pitching in relief.
Friday night was senior night for the Brashear softball girls. Allie Garrett, number 8, and Abby Hall, number 7, played their second to last home game for Brashear. They were recognized after the game with their fellow teammates bearing gifts.
Revere took the lead early with 3 runs in the first and 4 in the second. Brashear finally got on the scoreboard with a pair of runs in the 3rd and another 2 runs in the 6th. As Revere took the game by a final score of 12-4, Dalton Hawker homered for Brashear, with Jacob Blading and Gabe Thomas also having hits. Chance Hill got the start for Brashear, with Gabe Thomas and Cole Hackton pitching in relief.
The Lady Tiger softball team headed to Lancaster Saturday for the Schuyler County tournament. Brashear faced Knox County in pool play for their first game of the day. Knox County struck first with 3 runs in the first, and they never looked back as they blanked Brashear 14-0. Next up for Brashear was Milan in the second pool game. Brashear got the bats going and scored 2 runs in the first and 1 in the second, but Milan put the game away early with 7 runs in the first on their way to 19-3 win. Allie Garrett had 2 hits for Brashear, with Abby Hall, Mandy Taylor, and Hannah Reeves also having hits. In the final game of the day, the Tigers faced Nomdra in the consolation game. Brashear wasted no time, bringing in 5 runs in the first to take a 5-1 lead. Nomdra's big inning came in the 3rd as they scored 5 to close the gap 7-6, but Brashear kept the bats going and pulled away for a 12-6 win. Sydney Syke led Brashear offense with a triple and 2 doubles, with Abby Kirby and Allie Garrett also having hits.
Brashear visited Memphis Monday for a pair of non-conference softball games. Brashear's Skylar Hausman bunted the first pitch of the game to reach first safely. Then Abby Kirby moved her to second on a sacrifice bunt. After a ground out for out number 2, Allie Garrett singled to right field, but Hausman was thrown out at the plate. Although Brashear's defense held Scotland County to only 4 runs through the first 3 innings, they were unable to get anything going offensively. Scotland County blew the game open in the 4th and went to win 14-0. Skylar Hausman, Allie Garrett had hits for Brashear. Brashear won the JV game by a score of 3-2. The Marion County Mustang softball and baseball teams were in Brashear Tuesday for a pair of non-conference games. Runs were scarce in the softball game until Brashear scored 3 in the 3rd. Marion County got 2 of those back in the 5th and another in the 6th to tie the game at 3 all. Going into the 7th, the Tigers managed to get the first 2 outs, but an infield pop-up fell, allowing a run to score, and 3 more runs would come in before Brashear could get the 3rd out. Trailing 7-3, Brashear managed to score 1 run in the bottom of the 7th, but Marion County hung on for a 7-4 win. Abby Kirby had 3 hits for Brashear, with Skylar Hausman, Harley Mihalovich, Abby Hall, Hannah Reeves, and Haley Lawrence also having hits. Sydney Sykes got the start on the mound.
In the baseball game, Marion County struck first with a pair of runs in the top of the first, followed by 3 more in the second. Meanwhile, Brashear batters couldn't get on track. Chance Hill singled in the top of the first, but the Tigers' next hits didn't come until the 4th and 5th, as Jacob Blading and Zane Sykes also singled. Marion County added 3 more in the 4th and 4 in the 5th to win by a final score of 12-0. Gabe Thomas got a start for Brashear, with Chance Hall and Cole Hackton pitching in relief. Both Tiger teams will be in action again Monday as they face La Plata in a pair of conference games. Boom.
On Friday, we had an all-school assembly for the Harlem Wizards. They came in, showed Gabe Thomas and Paige Stutzman some ball handling skills, and talked to the students about their game Saturday night at Kirksville. Brashear Elementary had a visitor this week from the MU Extension Center. Jill Lane, the nutritionist, came in to discuss healthy eating habits and how to stay in shape with the kids. On Thursday, members of the Kirksville Fire Department were here to give a presentation on fire safety and prevention for grades K through 6.
Fire will go from this big to this big in 30 seconds, and it keeps doing that over and over and over and over. It grows.
Brashear traveled to La Plata Monday for the last conference games of the season. Brashear got on the scoreboard first with a run in the top of the first, but La Plata answered with a run in the bottom of the first. Brashear posted 4 more in the top of the second to lead 5-1, but La Plata scored 2 in the second, 5 in the third, and 2 in the sixth. They claim a 10-5 win. Aaron Bradshaw had 3 hits for Brashear. Sydney Sykes, Allie Garrett, Abby Hall had 2 hits each. Abby Kirby, Hannah Reeves, Haley Lawrence, and Harley Mihalovich also had hits. Sydney Sykes got the start on the mound with Kaylee Hall pitching in relief. In a baseball game, Brashear struck in the top of the first as Chance Hill, Jacob Blyden, and Gabe Thomas strung together hits to put the Tigers in front 1-0. La Plata came out swinging hot bats in the bottom of the frame, putting up 8 runs. Although Brashear managed a few more hits, they were unable to score again as La Plata went on to win 11-1 in 6 innings. Jacob Blyden and Gabe Thomas had 2 hits for Brashear, with Chance Hill and Zane Sykes also having hits. Gabe Thomas got the start with Chance Hill pitching in relief. Brashear traveled to Knox County Wednesday for the first round district game with Schuyler County. Neither team got much offense in the early going until Schuyler County scored 3 times in the third to add to a run they scored in the first. Schuyler County added 2 more in the fourth and 4 in the fifth to win by a final score of 10-0. Allie Garrett, Harley Mihalovich had hits for Brashear. Kaylee Hall got the start for Brashear with Sydney Sykes pitching in relief.
Hi, I'm Cole Acton.
And I'm Jacob Blyden.
Welcome to BHS News.
The Brashear Marching Tiger Band made their first appearance of the year as they marched in the Truman State University Homecoming Parade last Saturday. The band was also scheduled to march in Hannibal Band Tuesday, but it was postponed until next week due to bad weather. They will finish out their marching season at Missoon Homecoming Parade on October 25th.
The Brashear chapter of FBLA met on Monday for their fall fun night. Members all came dressed in their Old West clothes to take part in the murder mystery Deadwood Saloon. Each FBLA member was assigned to the role of the character and had to act out their parts while trying to solve the mystery. Along with getting to act out their parts, FBLA members had a meal to complete their evening. FBLA is sponsored by Martha Reese.
On Tuesday, Army recruiter Sergeant Stephen Atkins was here to conduct a special ceremony during lunchtime. Atkins announced that T.J. Haskell was enlisted in the Army National Guard and will begin his training in May.
You might think with the baseball and softball seasons coming to an end that Brashear Ball Field has been deserted, but the field has seen some activity. On Monday, this pair of Foxes braved a pouring rain to make an appearance on the field. Our next regularly scheduled athletic events will be Thursday and today as our junior high basketball teams play in Green City Tournament. After spending Sunday rehearsing, the Tri-County Conference Choir was ready to take their show on the road Monday. The final stop of the day was in Brashear, where choir members from the 10 conference schools put on a crowd-pleasing concert. Brashear members were Allie Garrett, Celia Kincaid, Kirsten Hart, Megan McHenry, and Morgan Magruder. After bad weather forced postponement of Hannibal Band Day last week, the sun came out for Tuesday's rescheduled day. The Brashear Band boarded the bus around noon and headed to Hannibal, where they participated in the parade through downtown and then stayed to see part of the field show before returning home. 26 bands participated in Band Day.
On Monday, a prep rally was held in support of our junior high basketball teams. The teams were hosting Atlanta in the first home games of the season. Members of the girls and boys teams were introduced. The cheerleaders did their cheers, and fun contests between representatives of teams were held. The Brashear Junior High basketball teams kicked off their seasons at Green City Tournament last Thursday. The girls faced host Green City, who came out pressing and played some tough defense. The Green City pressure allowed them to take a 14-0 lead after one quarter and a 26-0 lead at halftime. Brashear finally got on the scoreboard in the fourth quarter with a 3-point shot by Harley Mahalovic. Brashear fell to Green City by a score of 44-3.
Boys also faced Green City and fared little better than the girls as they trailed 21-2 after one quarter and 35-4 at the half. Green City added another 25 points in the second half to Brashear's 2 points to claim a 60-6 victory. Wyatt Potter had 4 points for Brashear, with Zane Sykes adding 2 points.
The Brashear Junior High Lady Tigers faced Novinger in the Friday night game of Green City Tournament. Brashear came out hot and held a 15-5 lead after one quarter, but Novinger fought their way back to tie the game 18-18 at halftime. Brashear and Novinger traded leads in the second half, with the game tied at 29-29 with a minute and a half left. Novinger went on to score 8 points to Brashear's 0 to win by a final score of 37-29. Hannah Reeves scored 17 points for Brashear, Alexa Higgins had 6, Harley Mahalovic had 4, and Tina Garlock scored 2 points.
The Brashear Junior High boys Tigers also faced Novinger Friday night. Brashear had a tough time getting on the scoreboard, trailing 21-1 and Fisher Reese had 2 points.
On Monday, Brashear hosted Atlanta for the first home junior high basketball games of the season. Brashear Lady Tigers got on the scoreboard first, but Atlanta soon took the lead and were up 18-9 at halftime. Brashear could not get any offense going the second half and fell to Atlanta 42-11. Avery Acton scored 4 points for Brashear, Emily Mason had 3, Harley Mahalovic and Alexa Higgins scored 2 points each.
Atlanta took control of the boys' game early on, running up on a 20-6 lead after one quarter and led 27-10 at the half. Brashear had their best offensive quarter in the third, scoring 7 points, but Atlanta would cruise to a 51-19 win. Ty Gottman scored 10 points for Brashear, Wyatt Potter added 5, Quinn Allen and Tristan Morrison scored 2 points each. This past week, Miss McGinnis' speech class has been working on demonstrative speeches. The students each took turns preparing and giving speeches that demonstrate how to perform some task. Topics have included how to pack before a picnic, how to make a Subway sandwich, how to maintain your weed eater, how to give a haircut, how to change a tire, and others. Up next, the group will be working on informative speeches. This week was Red Ribbon Week. During Red Ribbon Week, there was events held in the gym that 2 students from each class got to participate in.
Bashir headed to Green City Friday for junior high basketball. In the girls' game, Green City jumped out to a 31-4 halftime lead and outscored Bashir 11-4 in the second half to win by a score of 42-8. Avery Acton and Emily Mason scored 3 points each for Bashir, and Melissa Waxter scored 2 points. The Bashir B girls took an 8-6 lead after one quarter and scored 13 points in the second quarter to claim a 21-10 win. Emily Mason scored 10 points for Bashir, Melissa Waxter scored 4, Avery Acton had 3, and Kirsten Hart and Alexa Higgins scored 2 points each.
The Bashir boys only managed 3 first-half points, putting them in a 31-3 hole at halftime. The Tigers scored 6 more points in the second half as they fell to Green City 54-9. Colton Sayers scored 4 points for Bashir, Quinn Allen and Fisher Reese had 2 points each, and Ty Gottman scored 1 point. The Bashir B boys took a 6-4 lead after one quarter, but Green City came back strong in the second quarter to defeat the Tigers 13-12. Wyatt Potter scored 6 points for Bashir, and Colton Sayre, Levi Blankenship, and Tristan Morrison scored 2 points each.
Bashir hosted La Plata Monday. The Lady Tigers jumped out to a 9-6 lead after one quarter. La Plata was up 13-9 at halftime. It was anybody's game in the second half, and the buzzer sounded with the score tied at 19-all. La Plata managed to score 4 points to Bashir's 3 in the overtime and won 23-22. Harley Mahalovic scored 10 points for Bashir, with Avery Acton and Hannah Reeves scoring 6 points each.
In the boys' game, La Plata dominated from the beginning, building a 21-2 lead after one quarter and a 32-4 lead after halftime. The pattern was the same in the second half, with La Plata cruising to a 48-6 win. Wyatt Potter scored 4 points for Bashir, and Fisher Reese had 2 points.
On Tuesday night, the Bashir Tigers hosted the Bevere Wildcats. The girls' game was an exciting one, with the Lady Tigers going to overtime for the second game in a row. Unlike Monday night, Bashir came out on top in the overtime, winning by a score of 40-37. Alexa Higgins scored 13 points for Bashir. Holly Mahalovic scored 9 points. Hannah Reeves had 8. Emily Mason and Tana Garlock had 4 each, and Avery Acton scored 2 points.
The boys didn't fare quite as well, as Bevere took the early lead and were up 21-10 at halftime. Despite the Tigers' effort, Bevere increased their lead in the second half and came out on top by a final score of 44-12. Ty Gottman scored 8 points for Bashir, and Wyatt Potter had 4 points.
On Friday the 31st, the elementary and high school gathered in a little gym at 2 o'clock for a Halloween parade. After the elementary was done, then a few of the high school students got voted the most scariest, most creative, and most funniest.
On Tuesday, students from grades 7 through 12 met in the gym for a presentation on electrical safety presented by Tri-County Electric. Use of ground fault interrupter devices and child-proof outlets were emphasized in keeping safe around your home. Demonstrations of the danger of overhead power lines were a sobering reminder of the need to treat electricity with respect. The assembly also covered other tips such as how to stay safe if involved in a car wreck involving downed electrical. Bashir was on the road Thursday to play Buckland-Macon County. The girls fell behind early and trailed 18-7 at halftime. Bashir outscored BMC in the third quarter, but couldn't catch up and lost by a score of 34-23. Avery Acton scored 10 points for Bashir. Tana Garlock and Hannah Reeves had 4 points each. Kirsten Hart, Alexa Higgins had 2 points, and Harley Mahalovic scored 1.
The BMC boys jumped out to a 10-6 lead after one quarter, and a sputtering Bashir offense let BMC extend their lead to 23-8 at halftime. Bashir scored 8 in the third and 5 in the fourth, but it wasn't enough as they fell to BMC by a score of 45-21. Wyatt Potter scored 6 points for Bashir, Ty Gottman had 5, Zane Sykes and Nate Stewart had 3 each, and Levi Blankenship and Aiden Zins scored 2 points each.
The Brashear Junior High basketball teams were on the road at Meadville Monday. The girls took an early 9-2 first quarter lead, which they expanded to a 19-2 lead at halftime. Both teams struggled with their shooting in the second half as Brashear claimed the victory by a score of 23-5. Hannah Reeves scored 7 points for Brashear, Avery Acton had 6, Kirsten Hart had 4, Harley Mihalovich, Emily Mason, and Alexa Higgins scored 2 points each. The Brashear boys got off to a slow start and trailed 13-0 after one quarter and 27-2 at halftime. The Tigers put 4 points on the board in the third and another 2 in the fourth as they fell 40-8 to the Eagles. Quinn Allen, Fisher Reese, Ty Gottman, Wyatt Reeves each scored 2 points for Brashear. The Brashear girls scored the first bucket of the game, but Dominger quickly took the lead and led much of the first half before Brashear pulled ahead 16-13 at halftime. Brashear built a 26-23 lead after 3 quarters, but a last-second Dominger three-pointer tied the game at 32-all at the end of the regulation. Brashear went out to outscore Dominger 8-4 in overtime to win by a score of 40-36. Hannah Reeves led Brashear, scoring 19 points. Emily Mason added 7 points. Avery Acton, Kirsten Hart, and Alexa Higgins had 4 points each, and Tana Garlock also scored 4 points. Both teams had trouble putting points on the board in the early going, with Dominger leading 4-1 after one quarter. The Wildcats extended that lead to 16-5 by halftime. The second half followed the same pattern with a low-scoring third quarter, but a higher-scoring fourth quarter. In the end, Dominger prevailed by a score of 33-13. Ty Gottman scored 9 points for Brashear, Wyatt Potter had 2, Colton Sayre and Zane Sykes scored 1 point each. On Tuesday, local veterans were invited to come to the school to join the student body in an assembly in honor of Veterans Day. Students of Diane McGinnis's speech class led the crowd in the Pledge of Allegiance and a national anthem was performed. Other students gave patriotic speeches and performed patriotic songs. Names of local veterans were also read in a tribute to their service. The assembly was followed by a reception in the cafeteria. The Lady Tigers took on Lynn County Thursday. The Lady Mustangs took a 10-4 lead after one quarter and a 21-12 lead at halftime. Brashear pulled within 5 with the third quarter score being 27-22, but Lynn County held on for a win by a score of 36-28. Hannah Reeves scored 8 points for Brashear, Emily Mason had 5, Avery Acton and Harley Mihalovich scored 4 points each, Alexa Higgins had 3, and Melissa Wagster and Tana Garlock scored 2 points each.
Lane County's early pressure and running game proved too much for the Tigers, and the Mustangs went up by a score of 25-0 after the first quarter of play. Brashear got on the scoreboard in the second, but were still down by 31-3 at halftime. Brashear couldn't get their offense going in the second half either, and fell by a score of 52-7. Fisher Reese, Ty Gottman, and Wyatt Reeves scored 2 points for Brashear, with Quinn Allen scoring 1 point.
The Mary Immaculate Hawks were in Brashear Friday for 7th and 8th grade basketball. The Lady Tigers jumped out to the 6-0 lead after one quarter and were up 16-0 at halftime. Mary Immaculate got on the scoreboard in the second half, but Brashear rolled on to a 30-8 win. Emily Mason scored 12 points for Brashear, Melissa Wagster and Kirsten Hart scored 6 each, Alexa Higgins had 5, and Avery Acton scored 1 point.
The Tigers also got off to a quick start, running up a 21-8 lead at halftime. Brashear had another strong quarter of the third, scoring 12 points as it cruised to a 43-13 win. Wyatt Potter and Quinn Allen scored
8 points each for Bashir. Fisher Reese had 7, Aiden Sitz had 6, Colton Sayre and Wyatt Reeves scored 4 points each, and Levi Blankenship and Austin Gray scored 2 points each.
The Brashear Lady Tigers faced Green City in the first round of the Atlanta tournament Monday. The two teams traded buckets twice, making the score 4-4, but Green City did most of the scoring after that, taking a 20-5 lead into halftime. Brashear had no chance to catch up as Green City went on to win by a score of 40-11. Hannah Reeves scored 5 points for Brashear, with Zoe Blankenship, Kirsten Hart, and Alexa Higgins each scoring 2 points.
The Tigers also faced Green City in the first round game. Like in the girls' game, a tough Green City defense severely limited Brashear's scoring as the Gophers ran up a 36-2 halftime lead on their way to a 52-8 win. Brashear had their best quarter in the fourth as they scored 6 points. Colton Sayre scored 3 points for Brashear, Noah Reeves and Wyatt Reeves each scored 2 points, and Fisher Reese scored 1 point.
Brashear Junior High girls took on Lynn County Wednesday night in the consolation bracket at the Atlanta tournament. Brashear jumped out to a 7-1 lead in the first quarter, but Lynn County battled back. Brashear was up 14-7 in the second quarter, but again, the lead slipped away and Lynn County led 19-18 at halftime. The game stayed close in the third quarter, and Lynn County was ahead at times in the fourth before Brashear surged ahead for a final score to win the game 44-38. Hannah Reeves scored 14 points for Brashear. Avery Acton had 10, Harley Mihalovich had 9, Alexa Higgins had 5, Emily Mason had 4, Kirsten Hart had 2, and Tana Garlock scored 1 point.
After suffering a first-round loss to Green City on Monday, the Brashear Junior High boys were facing Brashear Wednesday in the consolation semifinals. Brashear came out hot and Brashear was not, as the Wildcats took a 13-0 first quarter lead and a 28-2 halftime lead. Brashear couldn't generate any offense in the second half either and fell to Beer by a final score of 40-3. Aiden Zentz had 2 points for Brashear and Fisher Reese scored 1 point. Last Saturday, the Brashear High School chapter of BHS sponsored the annual holiday gift and craft show. The show brings buyers and sellers together for a day of holiday shopping while serving a fundraiser for the National Honor Society.
Congratulations to Brashear High School student Brian Turner. Brian authored an article titled Dreams that was selected to appear in the December issue of Teen Ink. The article was chosen as an editor's choice.
Also, congratulations to Tana Garlock. Tana was named the Optimist Club Student of the Month. The Brashear Lady Tigers faced Buckland-Macon County in the consolation game of the Atlanta Junior High Tournament Friday night. Brashear took an early 10-6 lead after one quarter and were up 17-12 at halftime. Although BMC made a run in the second half, Brashear was able to hold on to claim the consolation trophy with a 29-25 win. Hannah Reeves scored 12 points for Brashear, Emily Mason scored 6, Avery Acton had 4, and Kirsten Hart had 3, Zoe Blankenship had 2, and Tana Garlock and Alexa Higgins scored 1 point each.
Brashear hosted the Mary Immaculate Hawks Tuesday for the final junior high games of the season. The girls' game was never in doubt as Brashear jumped out to a 17-2 first quarter lead and a 23-4 halftime lead. The Lady Tigers went on to win by a final score of 41-8. Emily Mason scored 17 points for Brashear, Aubrey Blything had 6, Avery Acton, Melissa Waxer, Tana Garlock, and Alexa Higgins had 4 each, and Zoe Blankenship scored 2 points.
The boys' game had more suspense as Brashear held a 10-5 lead after one quarter and an 18-14 lead at halftime. The game remained close through much of the second half, but Brashear held on for a 29-18 win. Colton Sayre scored 9 points for Brashear, Wyatt Potter had 8, Aiden Zitz scored 6, Levi Blankenship had 4, and Fisher Reese scored 2 points.
This year, students at BHS participated in Operation Christmas Box. The students gathered gift items to send to needy children in needy parts of the world. NHS and elementary community service leaders organized the collection and shipping of the boxes.
On Tuesday, students in grades kindergarten through 6th grade received free dental screenings. Dentists from Kirksville Dental Group donated their service to provide the screenings.
The first prep rally of the varsity season was held Monday to get ready for the Marion County road trip. Team members and coaches were introduced, and the cheerleaders got the Tigers fan base charged up for the upcoming season. The Brashear Tigers kicked off their varsity season with a road trip to Marion County Monday night. The girls got on the scoreboard first and held the lead through most of the first half, going into halftime leading 15-7. Both teams dialed up the defensive pressure all game long, but Brashear managed to find some openings in the second half and pulled away for a 42-20 win. Mandy Taylor scored 13 points for Brashear, Sydney Sykes had 8, Allison Thompson had 7, Skylar Hausman and Hannah Reeves had 4 each, and Kaylee Hall, Haley Lawrence, and Abby Hall each scored 2 points.
The boys' game was competitive and early going, with Brashear down 16-10 after one quarter, but some hot shooting by Marion County allowed them to pull away to a 28-16 lead at halftime. Brashear started chipping away at the Mustang lead in the second half and were trailing 34-31 after 3 quarters. After pulling within 1 point early in the fourth quarter, the Brashear rallied, stalled, and Marion County held on for a 51-43 win. Jacob Reeves scored 21 points for Brashear, Chance Hill had 12, Colt Acton and Gabe Thomas scored 5 points each. On the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, members of the Brashear Student Council traveled to Kirksville for a service project. Our students helped serve Thanksgiving dinner at Rehoboth Baptist Church in an event sponsored by the Sheraton Valley Association.
Brashear Lady Tigers faced Green City Monday night in the first round of the Dowager Tournament. It was a defensive battle with neither team scoring in the first 3 minutes. Green City finally got on the scoreboard with a pair of free throws with a little over 4 minutes left in the first quarter. After trailing 8-4, Brashear went on a 14-0 run to pull ahead 18-8 and led the rest of the game. Green City never gave up and made it close, but Brashear hung on for the 40-36 win. Mandy Taylor scored 15 points for Brashear, Allison Thompson 7, Abby Kirby and Abby Hall had 4 each. Sydney Sykes and Skylar Hausman had 3 each, and Haley Lawrence scored 2 points.
The Brashear Tigers played their Novinger Tournament opening round game Tuesday night against number 1 seeded Scotland County. Scotland County applied lots of defensive pressure from the start and took a 23-2 lead after 1 quarter. Brashear managed to score 10 points in the second quarter, but that left them with a 48-12 deficit at halftime. Scotland County continued to score big in the second half and won by a final margin of 86-29. Chance Hill scored 10 points for Brashear, Colt Acton added 7, Jacob Reese had 5, Ty Gottman had 4, and Patrick Jockerson scored 3 points.
Coming off a Monday night upset of number 3 seed Green City, the number 6 seeded Brashear Lady Tigers took on second seeded Atlanta. Atlanta jumped out to an early lead and were up 22-12 at halftime. Brashear started to close the gap in the third quarter and finally tied the game at 29-all in the fourth quarter. Over the last few minutes, Atlanta got some shots to fall and held on for a 41-34 win. Mandy Taylor scored 14 points for Brashear, Allison Thompson had 12, and Abby Kirby, Sydney Sykes, Abby Hall, and Skylar Hausman had 2 points.
On Thursday night, the gymnasium at Brashear was packed with a huge crowd for the annual Christmas program. Elementary classes from grades kindergarten through 6 each performed numbers, as well as various soloists, the choir, and the bands.
The Brashear boys faced the hot shooting Bevier squad in the consolation semifinals of Novinger tournament Thursday night. Bevier jumped out to a 22-3 first quarter lead and were up 33-9 at halftime. Brashear started to get their offense going after the break, scoring 13 in the third quarter and 20 in the fourth quarter. Their rally came too late, however, as Bevier held on for a 53-42 win. Cold Acton led Brashear, scoring with 12 points. Chance Hill had 10. Jacob Reeves had 9, Gabe Thomas had 7, and Patrick Jockinson scored 4 points. The Brashear boys played Atlanta Friday night at the Novinger tournament. Brashear jumped out to a 15-8 lead after one quarter, but the second quarter was a wild one, with Atlanta surging ahead by 10, only to see Brashear retake the lead 33-29 at halftime. The second half belonged to Atlanta as they outscored Brashear 34-21 to win by a final margin of 63-54. Chance Hill led Brashear, scoring with 26 points. Jacob Reeves had 16, Cold Acton had 7, and Gabe Thomas scored 5 points.
The Brashear girls played the Plata in a third-place game at the Novinger tournament Saturday. The Plata took a 12-8 lead after one quarter and extended it to 33-21 at halftime. Brashear never could make up any ground in the second half, and La Plata pulled away for a 55-36 win. Kaylee Hall and Skylar Hausman each had 6 points for Brashear. Haley Lawrence and Mandy Taylor had 5 each. Allison Thompson and Hannah Reeves had 4 each, and Abby Kirby and Sydney Sykes scored 3 points. Brashear visited Higbee Monday for a pair of non-conference basketball games. In the girls' game, Higbee took an early 13-8 lead, but Brashear fought their way back to take an 18-17 lead into halftime. Neither team could generate much offense in the third, with Higbee leading 22-21. Higbee finally found ways to score in the fourth and pulled away for a 33-23 win. Skylar Hausman had 8 points for Brashear, Allison Thompson had 5, Robin Waxter had 4, and Kaylee Hall, Abby Kirby, Sydney Sykes, and Abby Hall scored 2 points each.
The Brashear boys grabbed a quick 5-0 lead, but Higbee shooters got hot and put their team up 21-12 after one quarter. Brashear kept pace during the second quarter as Higbee led 37-26 at halftime. In the second half, Higbee managed to extend their lead 61-34, but Brashear battled to the end as Higbee won by a final score of 78-55. Cold Acton scored 18 points for Brashear, Chance Hill added 14, Jacob Reeves had 11, Gabe Thomas had 7, Ty Gottman had 4, and Patrick Jockinson scored 1 point.
Brashear hosted the Lynn County Mustangs Tuesday night. The Lady Mustangs quickly jumped out to a 17-8 first-quarter lead with a tough press and 3 first-quarter three-pointers. Brashear trailed 30-16 at halftime. Lynn County had an even stronger second half as they pulled away for a 66-24 win. Mandy Taylor scored 10 points for Brashear. Kaylee Hall and Sydney Sykes had 4 each. Haley Lawrence had 3. Abby Kirby had 2. And Skylar Hausman scored 1 point. The boys' game followed the same pattern as Lynn County's tough defense and hot shooting gave them a 28-13 first-quarter lead and a 50-30 halftime lead. Brashear was unable to close the gap in the second half and fell by a score of 86-58. Jacob Reeves scored 20 points for Brashear, Chance Hill added 17, Patrick Jockinson had 16, Colt Acton had 7, and Ty Gottman scored 2 points. The Brashear Tigers were in Green City Friday. The Green City Lady Gophers took an 11-6 first quarter lead and were up 26-17 at halftime. The margin was 35-23 after 3 quarters as Green City went on to win 51-32. Mandy Taylor scored 12 points for Brashear, Allison Thompson had 6, Kaylee Hall and Abby Kirby scored 4 each, Hannah Reeves added 3, Skylar Hausman had 2, and Sydney Sykes scored 1 point. In the boys' contest, Green City jumped out to a 20-8 lead after 1 quarter and were up 32-14 at halftime. Green City had their best quarter in the third with 22 points as the Gophers rolled to a 58-27 win. Patrick Jochimson scored 8 points for Brashear, Chance Hill had 7, and Gabe Thomas and Jacob Reeves scored 6 points each. The Tigers were on the road in La Plata Tuesday. In the girls' game, both teams struggled to score early on with the game tied 6-6 after 1 quarter. La Plata had a strong second quarter, building a 14-8 lead at halftime. The Bulldog lead was 25-14 after 3 quarters, and La Plata went on to win by a score of 33-22. Mandy Taylor scored 7 points for Brashear, Kaylee Hall and Skylar Hausman added 4 each, Allison Thompson had 3 points, and Abby Hall and Harley Mihalovich scored 2 points. The boys' game started with La Plata jumping out to a 27-9 lead after 1 quarter and a 45-16 halftime lead. The Tigers were able to slow La Plata's scoring in the second half, with La Plata leading 55-23 after 3 quarters. The final La Plata margin of victory was 62-32. Jacob Reeves scored 15 points for Brashear, Patrick Jochimson added 6 points, Colt Acton had 5, and Chance Hill and Gabe Thomas scored 4 points each. The Brashear Lady Tigers had quite a battle Thursday as they hosted the Atlanta Lady Hornets. Atlanta led 11-6 after the first quarter, but Brashear battled back to take a 21-15 lead at the half. Brashear was still ahead 33-28 after 3 quarters, but Atlanta came back and won by a score of 34-33. Mandy Taylor scored 11 points for Brashear, Skylar Hausman had 8, Kaylee Hall and Allison Thompson had 5 each, and Abby Hall scored 4 points. In the boys' game, Brashear and Atlanta battled hard, with Atlanta holding a slim 10-7 first quarter lead, but Atlanta managed to extend the lead to 35-24 by halftime. Atlanta put the game away with a 31-point effort in the third quarter, running their lead to 66-34 on their way to a 73-47 win. Chance Hill scored 18 points for Brashear, Colt Acton added 16, Jacob Reeves had 11, and Ty Gottman scored 2 points.